In the last section, we started to explore some of the different files inside of our new client project that we generated inside the server directory. We also spoke a little bit about how this includes its own separate server and how having that separate server is actually going to save us a lot of time in the long run because it gives us some great initial setup right out of the box. In this section, we're now going to continue by figuring out how we can very easily run both the server and the client together in a fairly elegant fashion. We'll first get started by changing back over to the terminal where I have the existing client running. I'm going to kill the client like so, and then I'm going to change back into the server directory. So I'm going to go up one level, and now I'm back into the server. So my first question to you is, how in the world would we get both the server and the client to run together at the same time? Well, there's definitely an easy way and a hard way. So to get the server and the client working simultaneously or running at the same time, a very kind of straightforward but I would call hard way would be to open up a second terminal window, change into the client directory, run npm start over there to start up the client server, change back over to the server window, and then run npm run dev, which starts our server up. So now we have both the development and the backend server, or excuse me, the front end and the backend server working together at the same time. Now, obviously, we don't really want to have to always be spinning up two separate windows like this. And I bet at this point in time, you might even be wondering how I opened up two windows simultaneously. So clearly, there must be a slightly better solution than this, and there definitely is. So rather than always opening up two separate windows, we're going to make use of a little package called concurrently that's going to help us run two separate servers with a single command. I'm going to first start off by closing both the client and the server. And remember, you can do that by pressing Control-C. And I'm going to flip back over to my code editor. Inside of my server directory, I will find my package.json file. So here's the package.json file, and here are some of the scripts that we've been working on already. Now, something I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to repeat many times throughout this course, we now have two separate package.json files. One package.json file exists on the server and records all the development assets or all the assets that we need for our backend server. The second package.json file is inside of the client directory and records all of the dependencies of our front end application and some of the different scripts that it uses as well. So throughout the rest of this course, it's really, really critical that we both make sure that we are working on the correct package.json file at any given time. I will be sure to spend a tremendous amount of effort to be very clear on which package.json file we're working with, starting right now. So I'm going to tell you, make sure you're in the package.json file in the server directory. So at the very top, you should see a name of server right here. And in general, your file right now should look very much like the one I have on my screen. Okay, so anyways, let's get back to it. We're going to make use of a little module that's going to help us run both the client and the server with a single command at the same time. So inside my script section right here, I'm going to add on two additional scripts. So the first thing I'm going to do is add on an additional script that is going to start up the client side of our application. So I'm going to make a new script called client, like so. For the actual script that gets executed right here, I'm going to run the command npm run start. Because remember, that's how we start up the client. Now there's just one little issue. If we executed this command right now from our terminal, it would execute the command npm run start in the context of the server directory. And that would just start up our server, which is definitely not what we want. We want to start up our client. So we need to somehow run the command npm run start from within the client directory. To do so, we're going to add on an additional argument to this thing. We'll say -- prefix client, like so. So this essentially says run the command npm run start from within the client directory. So go into the client directory where our new React project is sitting and start that development server up. Okay, so now we've got one command to start up our backend, one command to start up the client. Now we will combine the two of them together by creating one more command. So I'm going to call this new command, and this is going to be very confusing, just very briefly. I want to call this new one dev. Notice that we still have an old script up here called dev. I'm going to change this old one to be called server. So that's how we were starting up our backend server previously, right? We were running npm run dev. So I want to make sure that just stays consistent. So we're going to make sure that we start up our server now by running the command npm run server. We are not going to actually run this thing by hand right here. They will both the server and the client will be started up by the dev script. Okay, so inside of here, for this script, we're going to run the command concurrently. Please triple check your spelling on this one. And when concurrently is executed, it's going to run two separate commands. The first one is going to be / npm run server / and then I'm going to put a space in and another / npm run client, and then again / or I keep saying / I apologize. These are all backslashes, my mistake. And we're going to close it off like so. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now the last thing we have to do is install concurrently as an npm module, and then we can test this entire thing out. When we execute concurrently, or we execute really the dev command right here, concurrently is going to take this command and this command right here and execute both of them at the exact same time. Now, if you're curious about these backslashes that we've been using in here, they are to escape these double quotes, because remember, everything in this file has to have double quotes around it. So if we do not escape it, essentially whatever is parsing this file right here would think that we actually wanted to end this script early. Like this would be the whole script right here. And now npm run server right here, this text would be not enclosed in quotes, and so it would be a syntax error. And so that's the only reason we're using these backslashes. We're trying to escape the double quotes. Okay, so let's install concurrently and give this a shot. Back at my terminal, I'm going to make sure that I'm still inside the server directory. I'll do npm install -- save concurrently. That's a really small module, so it should only take a second or two to install. And then after that is finished installing, we can then start up both the client and the server at the same time by running the command npm run dev. Okay, so it's all done. We'll now execute npm run dev. And when we do so, we're going to start to see two sets of outputs appear on the screen at the same time. So here is our node.js stuff right here. And then in just a second, we will also see starting the development server, which is the message that gets emitted by our React development server. Okay, so this is definitely looking pretty good. Let's just kind of let it run its course just to make sure everything is running a-okay. Any second now. Okay, there we go. So now we can open our browser back up, refresh the page at localhost 3000. Everything here looks good. And of course, we can still access our server over on this other port that we had been using previously, localhost 5000. And let's do like, say, API/current user. And if I go over here, I am still logged in. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. We now have both the client and the server running at the same time. So like I said, getting these things working together is not the worst thing in the world. All we did was run this simple script right here to get both of them running at the same time. And really at the end of the day, we barely even needed this, right? We could have just ran the two separate terminal windows to get things working. So again, I can't say it enough, getting the React server and our backend API to work is not that bad. Okay, so this is looking great. Let's now take a break and continue in the next section.